obviously, slowly, but surely. And so
what I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise. Oh my god. Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
you know, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, you know, they spread this thing out. This has got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so,
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we are going to be taking a look at Jordan Peterson. He recently sat down with Alex O'Connor, and they had discussions over a lot of word garbagey shit. But we're going to be looking at a section concerned with the historical Jesus. And in that, Peterson says a number of troubling things when it comes to history in general. And I feel like if we were to apply Jordan's... it's very low. Very low. Oh, maybe that fixed it. How's that? If we were to apply Jordan Peterson's logic to to other areas of history, then we would basically just have to be like, who cares about history? Like, who cares about figuring out what actually happened in the past? So we are going to be discussing that today. Much better. Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, I just had to turn up my volume a little bit. It was down pretty far. But let's see, before we get into that, my earbuds are actually going out, so I'm going to have to switch to these. All right. Oh, first up, we've got... Sorry, I jumped the gun. David says good night from Daniel M. Thank you so much there, Daniel M. David, I hope you have a great night there, buddy, and a great weekend and everything like that. I hope you have a great sleep there, buddy. Thank you so much for that. And we also had Limited Light, who said donating to one of the shittiest YouTube channels. I do have a video that'll be coming out soon, as soon as I can get back into editing videos. With Limited Light, we cover that Reformed Zoomer in his mathematical argument. So we're going to be covering that. All right. Oh, I forgot to do the whole intro thing. So if you want to fuck around and find out why Jordan Peterson wants to, or at least his logic seems to entail that we should just disregard history in general, then please stay tuned. All right, heathens. Well, like I said, tonight we're covering Jordan Peterson. This is actually, and you'll understand why I have to say that this is actually a different video from the one that I did for Vice Rhino. Vice Rhino, he let me generate a video or create a video for him to put on his channel for 1 week, and it was about Jordan Peterson, but he was having a conversation with Pints with Aquinas' Matt Fradd. This is Alex O'Connor, and this actually appeared on Jordan Peterson's channel. Yeah, he wore the same stupid fucking like Catholic looking jacket. And so it looks very similar, but it's actually different videos. But in any case, we're not going to be having any news segment tonight because it's oops all Twitter shit tonight. If you guys don't know, Trump got convicted on all 34 charges, so he is a convicted felon now. Sentencing is in July 11th. And as soon as the sentencing gets handed down, they can appeal and they can, push it out farther. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But for right now, the maggots out there on Twitter have been losing their ever-loving fucking minds. Just a reminder, if you would like to help support the channel here, consider sending a super chat or becoming a Skeptic Mafia member. You can thank the Skeptic Mafia for picking this week's video because they had a choice of 3 different videos, and that's a choice they get every single week that we live stream here. They also get access to emojis, and then we really need to start doing, which this weekend would probably be a good weekend to start that up, start doing the Skeptic Mafia podcast as well as the Daily Bible podcast. Yeah, you've missed it? We're in the middle in the Daily Bible podcast. We're in the middle of, or right at the very end, I guess, of Jesus's ministry. He's about to get pinned on the cross, and everything. So, we're working on that in the Daily Bible podcast, but we are going to be starting that up soon, especially with the Skeptic Mafia podcast, because that's where we kind of cover all of the political content. So going into this, election season or whatnot, if you want to stay up to date on the juiciest intersections between atheism and politics, which seems to be a very big topic for not only this election but the last couple of elections, then I highly suggest you become a Skeptic Mafia member at the mafioso level, and you can get access to the Skeptic Mafia podcast. So all right, with all of that self-gratifying shilling out of the way, let's get on over to the comments. Of course, it's going to play it first, the Today I Learned. Banjalele, that's right. Today I'm learning some shit about maggots on Twitter. On X. These are all X posts for extreme, I guess. All right. Hold on. I gotta take that off. Right, so I've got an order that this is going to go in at first, so y'all just kind of bear with me here. All right, so we're just doing comments tonight, and then we're going to get directly into Jordan Peterson's garbagey bullshit. And first up is Representative Jack Kimball, which I've got a whole lot more comments from Twitter, but most of them are kind of like nameless maggots. But most of these are actually elected maggots. So let's see what they got to say. Representative Jack Kimball. Jack, be quick. Jack, fucking shut up with this bullshit on Twitter. You're a representative. Yeah, shove a candlestick deeply up your butthole. Roast that prostate, bitch. Anyways, this trial has been so unfair to President Trump. You want to know how it's been unfair to President Trump?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay, well, this whole time, the whole fucking thing, the kangaroo court, whatever, this whole time he was trying to prove his innocence in court, and there was a whole other team called the prosecution that was trying to prove that he was guilty. I thought this was America. How does he think trials work? I mean, I don't know. I saw this. Maybe this is not actually a representative. Like, I wonder if there's no, like, I feel like it would have some kind of bullshit, like, check mark next to it. Maybe I've been taken for a fool. This, out of all the shit that I've seen, this didn't actually occur to me that this guy could not be serious. Jack Kimball. So he doesn't have a badge, but he says he's representing California's 54th district and co-sponsor of Post. Oh. I should have read the description. He says he's a co-sponsor of Poe's Law. Detective Jesus #1, Thou Shalt Not Kill, is out on Amazon. Jack Kimball's Detective Jesus. That I don't know what this is. Jack Kimball, author. Anyways, so it's a fake person, but I feel like this is you'll understand why. So I'm gonna cut that out later in post. No, not really.
Always check the bio.
Always check. I should. I checked the bio earlier for somebody that was lying, so I should have checked his bio, huh? Yep, Poe's Law. I got it. Anyways, Dr. Robert Jeffress says at real Donald Trump was not convicted because of the evidence, but because of his rising poll numbers, which are scaring the left spitless. I've got enough spit for everybody. Zoomy Tomato says Poe's Law. I prefer Cole's Law. I don't know what coleslaw. I got it. You almost got me there. I was about to type in what's Cole's Law, because I'm like, is this something new? Damn it. I'm getting taken for tonight. Anyways, I knew that tweet should have been way too good. So Robert Jeffress here. I believe Robert Jeffress is an evangelical. Huh? Yeah, he's an evangelical type pastor kind of person. But this just goes to show, and I've seen this in a number of different places here. This just goes to show that these people that are supporting Donald Trump at this time and are claiming that he wasn't actually, I guess, what they consider not legally, but legitimately convicted of 34 felonies. They claim that it's all politically based, which there was nothing politically motivated actually in the trial. In the trial, it was all about accounting and establishing that Trump knew Stormy Daniels, that Trump had an affair with Stormy Daniels, and then Trump paid Stormy Daniels off with funds, I believe, from his campaign, right? Yeah, and then he tried to hide them by forging receipts and stuff, forging accounting documents. And so there's literally nothing politically motivated about this. I feel like a good amount of people are worried about Trump's popularity, but I feel like this is something that the New York district attorney or attorneys general, district attorney brought up because he actually violated the law, and he's been in many other legal troubles even before this current one that is the topic of discussion out there on Twitter and other social media. He's been the subject of many I guess litigations. So this is nothing new for Trump, I guess, except for the fact that he got convicted of 34 felonies. My guess is that he just thought that, people wouldn't say anything, or he wouldn't get caught with it, I guess. He thought he was covering his tracks enough, but he needed a few more layers of shell companies in between him and Cohen. But anyway, so that's Robert Jeffress. He's a dipshit. Josh Hawley, and now I'm looking at it. See, look, it's got that gray check mark, so we know. This is a government account, at least. So Josh Hawley says, not since the Alien and Sedition Acts in the 1790s has the president tried to criminalize his political opposition. Congrats, Joe Biden. You're the worst president ever. I don't know about that. I mean, last time I checked, Biden doesn't have 34 felony convictions. So it kind of seems like maybe Trump is the worst one, because not even Nixon has a felony conviction. Well, yes, you're right, honey. Only because he was pardoned by the next president, which was that, no, who was after Nixon? Who took over after Nixon? No, it wasn't Jimmy Carter. Whoever took over after Nixon after he resigned. Huh? Ford? Henry, not Henry Ford. Fuck me. Ford. I'm just fucking up all over the place. Huh? Gerald Ford. So Ford apparently pardoned him. But that's the only reason why he doesn't have a felony conviction, I guess. But in any case, Trump would actually be the worst president. And I'm sure that there's plenty of other metrics that you could throw on there as far as how bad of a president Trump was. But I feel like if we're, doing it this way, I would definitely say that Trump is the worst president, because I do believe I've heard that Trump has called for the prosecution of his political rivals. And he has claimed that if he gets back into the White House, he will be actively assigning legal teams or whatnot, or investigations. He'll be starting investigations not only into his political rivals, but also into political rivals in that people that just don't support him, like loyalists, right? Non-loyalists. Mm-hmm. I was getting there. Casey was mentioning how that doesn't even begin to touch on the fact that Joe Biden had nothing to do with this legal case. Like, there was nothing that Joe Biden did in order to progress things along, or he didn't tell anybody to tackle or to attack Trump or anything like that. It's literally Trump fucked around, and now he's finding out and facing the legal battles, like, because of his fucking around. And the Law and Order Brigade seems to have a problem with law and order being applied to them. Rules for thee, not for me, it should be the GOP line. Oh, you're getting on the mic, huh?
What gets me about this, though, is that they call Biden Sleepy Joe and talk about how incompetent and stupid and old he is, like that he can't do anything, he can't even stay awake, and yet he can somehow orchestrate this whole thing while being so incompetent.
Mm-hmm. No.
Both sides of your mouth, kind of.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's where the spittle comes.
Is it where the spittle?
All right, so that's Josh Hawley, the guy who did his sonic run out of the Capitol building when the maggots were attacking it.
After he incited.
Yeah, he incited it, and then he ran away from it.
Because he's a bitch.
He's a little bitch. That's right, honey. Next up, we've got Elon Musk, owner of X. Oh. He's made sure to put that up there. I like how on X now we have to have multiple icons in order to properly identify like what kind of bullshit people are a part of. But in any case, Elon Musk said, "Indeed, great damage was done today to the public's faith in the American legal system." So let me get this straight, Elon. Orange man fucks around, finds out, and has the law applied to him, and so therefore he's convicted of 34 felonies, which, by the way, his first offense, right? The first time he's being levied with 34 felonies.
To be fair, the first thing they've got him on.
The first thing that they've got him on. I'm just saying that, as far as when it comes to sentencing.
But weren't he and his dad sued in New York back in the 70s for I think racial discrimination, housing discrimination, because they wouldn't let black people rent their apartments?
Right, but I thought that was a civil litigation and not criminal.
I mean, true. And I think that was settled.
Yeah, I think so. But in any case, the point is that Trump say what's seen by the court as a first-time offender that's heavily going to play into sentencing. So he may not even see jail time. It just kind of depends. Honestly,
Probably not.
I feel like, in my own opinion, strictly my own opinion, that he should be made an example of, because this is a person that's that's in a position of power, and I feel like they should be held to a higher standard. So, like, you know what? Casey's laughing over there.
The idea of anyone holding Trump to any kind of not only not higher standard, but just a reasonable standard of a general decent human being, or not even decent, just a general human, is ridiculous.
I mean, I get it, but I'm just saying, for my own personal, I feel like government officials, especially the president, should be held to a higher standard than other people.
Totally agree. Normally I totally agree. I just think that nobody is holding him to a higher standard.
I don't think so either, but I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, he should be held to a higher standard, so therefore he should be.
We got a new member.
Woo, Jane. Is everybody renewing right now?
Oh, we're not seeing
Maybe
any
not.
of it.
Huh?
Oh, there's Barcephus. Hey, Barcephus.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that he should be held to a higher standard, and I feel like, that he should receive the sentencing that he deserves. And if that's jail time, he should definitely serve jail time and be just treated like any other normal person.
Well, they can't actually do that, because he does have a legal right to Secret Service protection for the rest of his life, whether he's in prison or not. So you can't treat him like a normal person. You just can't. Now, I'm not against accountability, but he can't be treated normally.
I'm saying normally in sentencing. So, like, he shouldn't be given a lighter sentence because he's president.
Yeah, and actually with this kind of conviction, their Class E, I think is what their Class E felonies. So they're like very minor, and jail time is only sentenced like 10 to 30% of the time. So jail time isn't even a norm. Like, that's not a normally happen. Now, it is 34 counts, but I mean, it's a non-violent. It's technically first time, though. I mean, 34 counts is kind of so I mean, I'm not saying I'm against jail time. I'm just not convinced that jail time is necessarily the path that they will go, or not even necessarily the right path.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't hate it.
I mean, I'm just saying that. Look. I'm just saying that jail time isn't an out of the, I guess jail time can be a factor in it, and I think in this case it should be a factor because of the fact that he is president. And I know that
but he's not president.
No, I meant former president. Sorry, I just forgot that word. Former president. But in any case, so the American public's faith in the legal system, I feel like that's already been shaky. And the Orange getting 34 felonies because he fucked around and found out, that's not the thing that has made us question or has put our faith in the legal system in jeopardy. I mean, we could point to any number of court cases that have gone down, or rather not have gone down, that have shaken our faith in the legal system. I don't have a lot of faith in the legal system, and I feel like I said, there's multiple reasons that you could list here. An Orange getting 34 felony counts is not one of them. And then Elon goes on to say, if a former president can be criminally convicted over such a trivial matter as breaking the fucking law, can you just imagine a former president gets convicted of breaking the law? It can happen to you too. Where does it stop with convictions for breaking the law?
I mean, people get convicted of breaking the law every day.
Oh, but this is trivial, so I mean, it shouldn't matter. Basically, it's a freebie.
I mean, this class of felonies exist for a reason. They're upheld all the time. I mean, do people get away with them? Yeah, sure. But like, this is stupid.
Yeah. So we did have Elizabeth Richardson that gifted 5 Godless Engineer memberships. Yeah, to include the Mayanist Mind, Blakely 78 UTD, Michael Mesros, Jolly Roger, Zeisifer, and Rick. Oh, wait, not Rick B. Sorry. Rick B just commented. Thanks for being here today, Rick B. And for being a Mafioso member. Yeah. But Sorry, excuse me. I turned off notifications because there's going to be a lot coming through. And so I just wanted to get through this. Anyways, continuing with Elon Musk's tweet here. Motivated by politics rather than justice, then anyone is at risk of a similar fate. I mean, just so that we're all clear here, the only person that's calling for the specific targeting of political rivals is Donald Trump. Nobody here, like the orange, was targeted because he is conservative or because I guess technically because he's Donald Trump, but that's only because he's the one that committed the fucking crimes. But it's not because of his political affiliations or his political stance or anything like that. It was not motivated by politics. I don't know why they are reframing it, because this is like a surreal thing, right? Mm. This is surreal because it's literally an accounting thing that proves the fraud, and it has literally nothing to do with his shitty fucking politics.
Well, I think the connection that they could make, which they did talk about, is that he falsified the business records at the time that he did, which was a decade after it happened, right? She never had an NDA that whole time. And The reason that they did this then is because they didn't want it to come out and be a thing right before the election and influence the election. So it's connected politically, not in the way that they say it is.
Right.
But that's how it's connected to politics, is because he only did it when he did it because he was running and it was right before the election and he didn't want to lose.
Right. And I feel like it's just about establishing motive.
Yeah. I mean, little did he know his sycophants don't give a fuck.
Right.
So they're going to vote for him anyway. They were going to vote for him anyway. Whether he paid her off, whether he didn't have to pay her off. That story could have come out right then. It wouldn't have changed anything.
No. Obviously not, because him being convicted with 34 felony accounts hasn't affected anybody.
Oh,
in fact, you've got people lying all over Twitter about how, well, I was going to vote for Biden, but now I'm a Trump boy.
Or I wasn't going to vote at all, but now I'm voting for Trump. And I'm like, that's not exactly a flex.
Why would you vote for Trump?
This guy got convicted of 34 felonies, so now I'm going to vote for him for president. You know what pisses me off? As a convicted felon, you cannot enlist in the U.S. Armed Forces at all. You're not allowed. It's completely banned. But you can, as a convicted felon, run for president and become the commander-in-chief of said armed forces.
Right. I believe.
Not a fan.
Did you ever watch a movie called Renaissance Man?
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's a Danny DeVito movie. He's like an English lit teacher or whatnot, but he goes to teach at like a military camp and to help soldiers, I guess, maybe get their GED or something like that. Anyways, he's helping them out. There's this one really talented kid, but he ends up getting kicked out because he's a felon. And he lied on his application about being a felon. So he got ejected from the army. And it was a heartbreaking moment because he was like really gifted, like in a literary way. And so it was pretty, it was pretty devastating.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting. In 38 states, he can't vote because he's a convicted felon, but he can get voted for to be the president of all of the states.
Yeah. And it's literally only because he is the orange president or former president. That's the only reason why. Like anybody else that has a felony, people would not vote for that person. But because they love to suck on that Cheeto dick, they will vote for this convicted felon.
Trickster said Trump can't be hired at 7-Eleven, but he can be the president.
Yeah, I know. That's fucked up, right?
Well, convicted felons can't get security clearances either.
No.
But he has to have a clearance to be the fucking president. So like,
Well, I mean, is he going to be able to get like security briefings?
If he's the president,
and stuff?
he's going to have to get security briefings. Like they're not going to have a choice. Like it's this crazy. Like I don't know, man. I'm just so. This fucks me up so much.
But hey, you know what, honey?
What?
You know, if you break the law, now that Trump's been convicted, you could also be convicted of breaking the law when you break the law. I could have been
convicted of breaking the law before. That's kind of the point of fucking laws.
You know what they will do to us, but they won't do to Trump?
Collect taxes.
And threaten to take our house for $3,000. No, $1,800. $1,800.
$1,100.
$1,100 because of an accounting error on their end.
Yeah.
They had an accounting problem on their end, and they sent us a letter. It's like, we're going to take your house. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We live in an apartment.
Yeah, that was at the time, yeah. And the taxes had been paid. They just applied them to the wrong Social Security number. So they were showing the taxes under one Social Security number and the payment under a different Social Security number. So they had the money the whole time and threatened to take our house over $1,100.
Yep.
It was madness, but, whatever.
All right, so we're getting to about the first half of these tweets that I can. So this one is the GOP that says crooked Joe Biden is a threat to democracy, and so I really don't feel like Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. Who I feel are the threats to democracy are Republicans like Donald Trump and other Republicans that are enforcing a lot of the same things that are contained in like the Project 2025 agenda, also Agenda 47, which is Trump's personal platform. I know Trump in the past has said that he wants to do a lot of things like consolidate a lot of power to the executive branch. He wants to abolish a bunch of the agencies that exist. And that he wants to actively, investigate not only Biden, but Hillary, so his political rivals, but not only those groups, but he also wants to politically, legally go after non-loyalists, is what he specifically said. And so I feel like in order to accomplish the things that Trump has said that he wants to accomplish, like consolidating power under him and doing things that he would have to bypass Congress's approval for, I feel like you would end up having to change the Constitution or completely ignore it, abolish it. However that particular thing, however he can remove the Constitution block or road speed bump from his path, he would do it. Like however that manifests in reality, I feel like the logical implication there is that he would have to do effectively that.
But they love the Constitution, John.
They love the Constitution.
And
that's
the
right.
American flag, he hugs that shit.
I know. He basically grabs the flag by the pussy.
You also neglected to mention, which I think is an important one. He wants to be dictator for a day.
Oh yeah, just a day.
Just one day.
And he wants us to believe that he'll set that gavel down after that one day. I can see him being like, I feel like Thor. I'm not putting this down. I'll never pick it up again. I don't know why he wants to be dictator, but
yes, you do. Come on, King Trump, dictator Trump. You know. Yeah. He wants to be that, and I mean, he's not. He talks. He says the Republican lines about the Constitution and the law and order, rule of law, whatever is so important. Thin blue line, whatever. He talks about all of that, but in actuality, if he could become the president, king, dictator man and never have to leave till he dies and then his family take over and rule everything forever, he'd be in favor of that. Like, just from the things that he's said and how he's talked, he was not interested in handing over power to the rightfully elected person after him. Yeah. Did everything that he could to try to prevent that from happening, including having his loyalists turn on his own vice president, literally hunting him down in the Capitol to kill him.
And request, or like basically chanting.
Yes.
For him to be hanged.
Hang Mike Pence. They had was it a guillotine or a noose outside?
It was a noose.
A noose. A noose right outside the fucking Capitol building, waiting for him. Now, would they have hung him had they gotten him? I don't know. I don't know if they would have actually done it. But those are the things that they're saying. And so you can't ignore the things that they're saying.
I agree. You can't ignore what they're saying. But the GOP here saying that crooked Joe Biden is a threat to democracy, I disagree. I think it's very obvious that, in general, Republican mindset is a threat to democracy. Where was it they recently ruled that they're abolishing democracy? or something. Do you remember telling me that?
Yeah, but I can't remember what that was in, where it was like was it Washington State? Somebody in the chat probably knows. I think it might have been the GOP from Washington State that that democracy, we're regressing into a democracy or something. What did they say? That democracy is not good.
Yeah, and they basically wanted to abolish or do away with or prevent democracy.
Yeah, and that's actually in the GOP party platform for that state. I wish I could remember for sure which one it was, but I think it was a Washington State.
Yeah. So who is the real threat here? The Democrats or Joe Biden in this particular case, who's trying to do his best to straddle the various lines that he has to straddle as the president, and maintaining all these relationships and everything like that in order to preserve democracy? Or is it the group who has some factions among them that literally have expressed the need to destroy democracy? Which ones are the problem here? I feel like if you cannot actually see who the problem is, you're the problem.
Yeah, and a lot of people, you mentioned it, Project 2025. A lot of people in the chat are talking about Project 2025. Project 2025 was written by the Heritage Group?
Foundation.
Written by the Heritage Foundation. Published by the Heritage Foundation, written by a significant number of people that were in Trump's first administration, who are likely to have positions in his second administration. And even if they don't, they are certainly Trump loyalists. Now, Trump's campaign has come out and said the only official agenda Trump has is Agenda 47, which I guess is posted on the Trump website. If you want to go look at that, whatever.
Personally, I feel like they're lying about that.
But, the Heritage Foundation had a similar project when Trump was elected the first time, 2017. I don't remember if it was called Project 2017, but it was the same type of thing for 2017. And Trump's administration either enacted or proposed 64% of what was in that document. So if you know all the crazy, wild ass, really fucking scary shit that's in Project 2025, I would not be surprised if there were overlaps, right, in Project 25 and Agenda 47, though I don't know all the points in Agenda 47, but I would not be surprised if there's some overlap. I would not be surprised if they did or attempted to do many of the things that are in it. So it's scary.
I've heard, I read in one article, can't remember where it was from, it was either PBS or some other place, but basically there was a law professor out of New York. He basically described the agenda as creating an autocracy.
The Project 25 or Agenda 47?
Project 2025.
Okay, sorry. I just want to make sure it was clear because you said the agenda, so I want to make sure that...
Right.
Yeah.
So the Project 2025 seems to want to create an autocracy specifically crafted for Trump, is what it seems to be geared towards, because they have a lot of language in there that's similar to the language that Trump has put out, like targeting non-loyalists, targeting his political enemies, and all this other stuff, which is kind of hypocritical of them because everybody's chanting like, you can't target your political enemies with the legal system. This is a breakdown. It's a miscarriage of justice and all this other shit.
Well, what's interesting is like they learned a lot from the first time and all the things that happened the first time, where they needed to have people appointed to that would be on their side, like the trigger points, what failed with the attempted insurrection in 2020. They learned things. And so they have spent the past 4 years nearly trying to fill those gaps, trying to make sure that there are the right people in the right places so that where people said no in states, there would be loyalists there that would say yes. And it's very dangerous. It really, truly is. And it's not trying to be alarmist. It just is dangerous if you read it and you look at the past and what they've done in the past, the things that they have all said. you can see where this train is headed. And it's not a good place.
Over on the vertical stream, Jane Pusecker actually asked what agencies Trump wants to abolish. And so there's the Department of Commerce. He wants to abolish a number of things in that that help. The Department of Commerce, he wants to abolish a number of things in there. The Department of Education has always been on the chopping block for Republicans.
Is this Agenda 47?
No, this is a USA Today that describes back in 2017 the things that Trump is targeting.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just wanted, I missed that part.
Yeah, I got you. The Department of Energy, he wants to reduce or completely abolish that. I don't know which now.
You know what's crazy? Is while Biden has been president, the United States has produced more oil than any other time and any other president in history.
Right.
And they're still mad about it.
I get, yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why they prefer to get Cheeto dust all over their mouth by sucking his mushroom dick, but they seem to really want to, bulk him up as to how good it was under Trump, when really, like, things have never been better, like under Biden.
Well, I mean, depending on what your goals are, better for who. But I mean, Biden seems to be doing things, which Biden has always been a liberal, but seemingly more moderate. He's certainly not progressive. I know there's a lot of progressives that we're friends with or probably in the chat that are like, Biden is ridiculous, right? He's not a progressive. That's true. But he put his weight behind green energy, also things that would help push forward energy efficient vehicles and energy efficient lots of things, right? Which Republicans are freaking out about, like stoves and washers and dryers. They've got like 6 fucking bills protecting your GE appliances.
What was it? Didn't Trump say something that's like, you can't flush toilets 17 or 18 times anymore? Or no, you're gonna he was saying you have to flush the toilet 17 to 18 times in order to get a turd down. And it's like, how big of a shit are you taking? Like, I mean, he's got the pens. He just has to throw it away.
Right. He just shits in his dighties and tosses it. I don't know what his problem. Maybe he just uses too much toilet paper.
Maybe. So to continue on, the Department of Health and Human Services, he wants to cut a lot out of that or cut it completely. Department of Housing, he wants to cut a lot out of that or completely. All of these are either cut significantly or cut completely. Department of the Interior, the Department of Justice, Department of Labor,
IRS.
The Department of the State and the U.S. Agency for International Development,
FBI,
Transportation, Treasury, Environmental Protection Agency, NASA. He doesn't want to cut NASA completely. He just wants to severely reduce their budget, which their budget is already like paper thin.
I know NASA doesn't really have a big budget. It's gotten cut a lot over the years.
It's really sad. Anyways, so that's a rundown of what they want to cut. So who's the bigger threat to democracy here? Is it Joe Biden or is it Trump? I'm not saying that I enjoy the fact that I have to vote for Joe Biden in order to not devolve into an autocracy. I'm just saying that, like, the choice is clear. For me, at least.
Not to mention, we have at least 2, possibly 3 Supreme Court justices that might be aging out / dying during the next term. So
is
either
it
retiring or they're old. They're old as fuck, and we're not sure.
Would it be bad if I hope they die?
No. What? Why? It wouldn't do any good. They're not going to be replaced now.
No, they're not going to be replaced now, but, like, I could do without, like, Alito. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, his wife got called a dirty name, and she turned the American flag upside down.
She was in distress.
Oh, I got called the C word. Oh, turn the flag upside down, honey. I'm distressed. Oh. All right, next up is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
God, she's another drama queen.
Yeah, she is. Oh my God, B. Oh, All right. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is responding to a tweet from John Bolton, who John Bolton said today's verdict is a fire bell in the night. The Republican Party now has one last chance to change course and not nominate a convicted felon for president. And you would think, yeah, I don't want a convicted felon.
Didn't John Bolton work for him?
He did.
I thought so. Chief of staff?
No. I don't think it was chief of...
National Security Advisor?
Maybe that. I can't remember exactly, but I don't think that he was chief of staff.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyways, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, the fix is in! They would love to replace him or demand him take Nikki Haley as VP, or they will tell him he has to rat in jail. How about go fuck yourself, John Bolton, and the and the rest of the deep state cabal.
I thought you were ad-libbing, and then I looked at it. She actually said that.
Go fuck yourself, John Bolton. Trump is the only one. No, wait. Trump is the only one.
There's something wrong with her.
There's a lot wrong with her. Yeah. I mean, come on.
I mean, this just goes beyond, like, I don't talk about these people like this because I disagree with them on certain political things. Like, that ain't it. These people are literally fucking crazy.
They are.
She is an absolute psycho.
Yep. All right, so this next one is, I think this is actually a statement from Facebook, maybe in a message or on an actual. It looks like a message.
Oh, Susan Collins.
Yes, Senator Susan Collins, Republican from Maine. This is her reaction to a Trump guilty verdict, or the guilty verdict. It is fundamental to our American system of justice that the government prosecutes cases because of alleged criminal conduct, regardless of who the defendant happens to be. Okay, yeah, I can get on board with that. Yeah, sure. I agree. We should definitely prosecute these people, regardless of who they are.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. In this case, the opposite has happened.
What?
The district attorney who campaigned on a promise to prosecute Donald Trump brought these charges precisely because of who the defendant was rather than because of any specified criminal conduct.
Sorry. The DA's office presented over 200 pieces of evidence that corroborated witness testimony. So
I don't understand why, like, it's very obvious a lie that they don't have specific criminal conduct. Trump's even said this too. Like, I don't even know why I'm being charged. It's like,
I don't even know what the charges are. I haven't been told what I'm being charged with. That's a lie. They literally read it out in court. They have to.
And you know what? That's why he didn't take the stand. Because he's like, I'm sorry, I can't not lie. I always lie. And so therefore I will always perjure myself. And that, I feel like, my personal opinion, is the reason why Trump didn't take the stand, because he just can't stop lying.
His lawyers won't put him on the stand. He'll be convicted of perjury 17, 18, 27, 200 times, depending on how long he's up there.
Yep. The political underpinnings of this case further blur the lines between the justice system and the electoral system, and this verdict will likely be the subject of a protracted appeals process. I mean, I agree with that last part. I think that the Trump people are going to appeal it as many times as they can to push, like, any kind of, like, actual fulfillment of sentencing out as long as they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the appellate court in New York,
6 black women,
full of black women. I'm not sure if he has a prayer's chance in hell.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. I would hope and expect that they would be absolutely fair about what they're doing. They'd look at all the evidence. They'd look at what happened. I mean, you can't have anything new presented, right? You have to just look at what happened, and there has to be a qualified reason for appeal. Like, you can't just appeal because you don't like a verdict. There has to be a reason. So they'll come up with a reason. It'll go to the appellate court, and that's fine. He's allowed to do that.
I just remembered. Can you tell them what Trump's attorney initially asked for after all 34 counts were handed down?
Oh yeah, as soon as the 34 counts were handed down, Trump's attorney motioned that Trump be acquitted.
Like how? Like what? Where do you get the audacity? The fucking audacity to be like,
John, what do I always tell you? The answer is always no if you don't ask.
I mean, true, but I mean, at this point, it's like, oh, you've been convicted of 34 felonies. Can we get an acquittal? Like, just pretend this never happened, please, because otherwise, I'm never working as a lawyer again.
Yeah. Assyrian also makes an important point that Trump was indicted by a grand jury, not the DA. The DA presented the evidence to a grand jury, and the grand jury decided to indict. And then once the grand jury indicted, you know, we had the trial, and the jury at the trial convicted unanimously. Now, the GOP folks are out there saying that this judge had a bunch of special rules that are not normal. That's not actually true. There was no 4-4-4 rule or anything like that, that a combination of guilty verdicts for different charges could, you know, there was none of that. It had to be unanimous. That none of that was true. Also, they were mad because they said that they were mad because the judge told the jury they couldn't consider the opening or closing statements or anything like that. That's normal conduct. That's absolutely normal.
Because they're not
New York State and for federal courts. That's normal. That's not evidence. The juries are not supposed to consider arguments made by attorneys, even comments made by judges. They're supposed to only consider the evidence, and those are the standard rules for all courts.
Honey,
What?
don't you know that all 12 jurors were just copies of Joe Biden?
I mean, apparently they were Joe Biden. Like, he was somehow controlling them, though he's completely incompetent and almost always asleep.
Soros copied Joe Biden 12 times and put them all at various stages throughout his life, so they looked just slightly different, so people didn't really notice.
Right, that makes so much sense.
Listen, okay, Joe Biden got copied 12 times, and then that's who convicted him. Are you following me back here? All right. Next comment is Piers Morgan, only the best commentator, who says, "This is a sad, shameful, and ridiculous day for America. To drag a former president who is running for president again through criminal courts over something so trivial feels a massive overreach and an incredibly divisive and obviously politically partisan action."
I mean, I disagree it's an overreach. I agree. Hold on, let me see where I agree. This is something trivial. So I actually agree with this. Now, is it illegal? Yes. But hear me out. Hear me out. Trump is indicted for a lot of different things right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forging documents or falsifying business records to pay off a prostitute is like absolutely the least of my worries. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, me personally, to be honest, I think that he broke the law and he should face consequences just like anybody else. Hunter Biden, I think his trial starts next week for shit that he did. Should he be convicted if the evidence proves that he did what they say he did? Yes, absolutely. I don't care. I don't care. If you want to convict Hillary of crimes and you can prove it, fine. If you want to convict Joe Biden of crimes and you can prove it, fine. I don't give a shit. But like, the fucking payments to a porn star, least of my worries. We've got all of the crimes related to January 6th. We've got all of the crimes related to election interference in Georgia and other states, mind you, right? So that January 6th would happen like it did, right? Mm-hmm. You've got all the crimes related to all the classified documents. And if people think that that's not a big deal, it's a big fucking deal. It's a huge deal what he did with those documents. No one else could have gotten away with what he got away with so far. And we're not even sure he's not going to get away with it. He might still. Those are far more important than this.
Well, so I only disagree with the idea of it being trivial, meaning that like it could be forgotten or not. And that's just because of the impact of fraud in it, just in general. Not this specific case, but like if we're going to hold people accountable for defrauding either investors or the government or anything, I feel like we need to treat everybody the same. So we can't just subjectively pick whose fraud is more important than other people's fraud.
Oh, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done this. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying compared to the other shit that he's indicted for, this is small beans.
I mean, it is small beans, but I still think that it's important. Like, just because it's a correct application of our legal process and the law and order that Republicans are always cheering about. Like, I feel like this is a proper application of that. And if we see any part of it as being trivial or not important, I feel like it could potentially break down. And then, whatever we see as trivially and not important eventually just becomes fine to do. So it would be fine to defraud the government, defraud investors.
I mean, surely nobody thinks this is the first time that he's falsified business records.
Oh, no, it's just the first time he's been caught.
It's not even the first time he's been caught. It's just the first time he's not gotten away with it.
Right.
So, like, people get away with doing this kind of stuff. They really do. And I'm not saying they should, but they do. There are other people who don't get away with it, and that's good. That's how it should be. But compared to the literal election interference that he directly involved himself in Georgia and the classified documents, that shit is bad. That's bad. The classified document stuff, waving classified, like literal nuclear secrets around to people who don't have clearances or need to know, like members of the general public, foreign people, like not foreign, I shouldn't say that, not foreign nationals, people not from here that are visiting here. I don't know.
I mean, I think foreign nationals is perfectly fine.
I'm having so much trouble, but like doing that kind of stuff, that's a problem. That's a real fucking problem. That's a big deal. That is a big deal.
Well, as far as national security goes, foreign nationals is a very big concern, just because of the potential outside problems that could happen. Not
international visitors. Thank you, Elizabeth.
International visitors.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing that kind of stuff, that's a big problem. I mean, right after Trump left office, a slew of federal, I don't know the word I'm looking for. I'm having like COVID brain problems, but a slew of federal employees, workers, intelligence officers, people got killed right after he left office. Now, I'm not going to go all conspiracy theory and say that he was the reason, but I think that the documents that they found with him, maybe somebody should go and look in those documents and see if their names or any information about them were in those documents, because they were compromised somehow. Yep. So I'm just saying, we should look.
I would definitely think that Trump would be first on the list.
I mean, I would just look.
Yeah.
Just look. That's all I'm saying.
Sorry, that was a wrong tweet to bring. Finally, we're going to look at Mike Johnson's statement.
Oh, this guy.
Yep. Shit. This isn't even all the ones that I had picked for tonight, but these are just the ones I'm willing to go through, and we've got to get to the actual video.
Sorry, I made this way longer.
No, you're fine. So here's Speaker Mike Johnson. I feel like this statement from him kind of shows that he's not fit to be either Speaker of the House or a representative in Congress. He says, my statement on President Trump's trial verdict. Today is a shameful day in American history. Law and order was applied to a private citizen in the United States. That private citizen was found guilty on 34 counts of felony charges, and therefore he's going to be sentenced appropriately, hopefully. How is this a shameful day? Like, I feel like this is an actual appropriate use of the legal system. It's not a failure. Like, it's actually applying the legal system as it was set up.
Yeah, but I mean, if in the words of Trump's own attorney, the big orange turd was convicted, and that's a problem for them.
Yep. Democrats chaired as they convicted the leader of the opposing party on ridiculous charges predicated on the testimony of a disbarred convicted felon. This was a purely political exercise and not a legal one. Well, if that is the case, then you would think that you would be able to provide evidence in the court hearing about it being politically motivated, but it kind of seems like everything that has come down about this situation shows that it's not politically motivated, but actually motivated by just fucking proper accounting. Like, the fact that Trump hid these payments to Stormy Daniels in an effort to, I guess, help get him the White House. I mean, that's motivation, and that's breaking the law. Are there some laws that are made that shouldn't be enforced? And if there are, what laws should those be?
Well, I mean, I think we should start with the ones where it's like you can't walk around on Sunday with an ice cream cone in your back left pocket. Like, I think we should target those laws. Maybe those don't make sense.
Those are there are definitely laws that don't make sense now.
Also, dildos are illegal in the state of Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. That maybe should go away.
There are definitely laws that don't make sense now, and you don't need a dildo.
No, I don't. I'm just saying, should they be illegal? No. You're on camera. Behave yourself, pervert.
Just saying, you don't require one. Anyways, there definitely are laws that could be not ignored, but definitely like repealed or abolished. But I feel like that there's definitely a legal process that goes through. Like there's definitely a process for removing that from the law, and I think that the process should be followed. So I mean, there's that. What I'm talking about is a purely subjective, should we follow this law or not? Not like an actual structured process that eventually renders the law inert. I'm talking about Mike Johnson personally being like, I don't know, this doesn't seem to be that big of a deal in this particular situation. So subjectively, I choose not to follow this law. Like, I feel like that is what's not okay here. The weaponization of our justice system has been a hallmark of the Biden administration, and the decision today is further evidence that Democrats will stop at nothing to silence dissent and crush their political opponents.
This had nothing to do with Joe Biden. These weren't federal charges. These were state charges in New York. Had nothing to do with Joe Biden. Joe Biden couldn't have stopped him. He didn't start him. He can't even, if he wanted to, pardon these. Like, right. He has nothing to do with this. Sorry, Charlie.
Well, and also, the thing that he's describing is what Trump has publicly said that he wants to do.
Yeah, but that's fine.
He's publicly stated that he wants to go after his political rivals. He wants to silence non-loyalists. Hell, he wants to, I can't remember if it's him or Ramaswamy that says that he wants to just remove all non-Trump loyalists from the government.
I mean, Ramaswamy has said, I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly the words he's used specifically, but he does want to eliminate a significant amount of the federal workforce.
Yeah, and I think Trump is the one that specified non-loyalists.
I believe that has been spoken, yeah.
So he's actually describing Donald Trump's agenda here, not Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't want to remove people just because of their political affiliation. I should know because, here in North Alabama, there's like a lot of Republicans, and one of the biggest, I guess, things here are government agency. Like,
Mr. Epistivist said, in fact, Biden's Justice Department passed on this case. That is true. They had an opportunity. They had an opportunity to press federal charges for some of this because of its. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was they had an option to get in on this because of its because the election interference aspect, right? Because the impact on an election, so close to an election, why the motivations behind it, and they elected not to press charges at a federal level. So New York did it on their own,
which makes it even more perplexing and surreal to hear all of these Republicans be like, Joe Biden's behind this.
Well, we're not going to let facts get in our way, John.
Yeah. The American people see this as lawfare, and they know it is wrong and dangerous. President Trump will rightfully appeal this absurd verdict, and he will win. I'm not sure if he's going to win, but he can. It's his legal right to appeal. I don't think that he should be disallowed from appealing, but I don't think that it's going to work out for him. That's just me.
See.
Yeah, we'll just have to see, but yeah, I think he's going to be disappointed. Anyways, that's going to be it for the comments tonight. Like I said, I have a whole bunch more. I may do a video where I read comments or whatnot. I know that sometimes people like those.
Well, also, too, if you're interested in this kind of commentary, subscribe to the channel.
Right.
And we will be starting back up with a Skeptic Mafia podcast, which this is what we do.
Yeah, exactly. We talk politics. We're liberal as fuck. And if you don't like it, then you're probably not going to be happy with the mafioso membership.
And sometimes me and him argue about shit because he says something. I'm like, well, no, not really. And
we disagree on things because we don't control each other's lives like that.
Yeah, there you go. Preview for Skeptic Mafia podcast. You're welcome.
Yep. All right. So we're going to be getting to Jordan Peterson now, but I do have to open up the Peterson video real quick. Okay. So let's get on over there. Hold on. I get a response. Okay. Hello and welcome to this Jordan Peterson video. I mean, I'm definitely trying to sound like Viced. Hang on, to change my mind. Or well, actually, get a blue moon. It's like right on top. It's already open. I'm so sorry. Thank you. All right. So we got Jordan Peterson here. We need to get this thing like sized. There we go. All right, so I finished my whiskey, but Casey's gonna get me a Kona Light, which is I've got this nice ocean inspired because I'm friends with Ocean here on YouTube. Got an ocean inspired cozy from Hawaii, and so as I specified earlier, Jordan Peterson is gonna be talking about biblical history, specifically whether or not Jesus actually resurrected and walked out of a tomb. Alex O'Connor does a decent job of holding his feet somewhat to a moderately burning set of embers. He definitely tries his best to get Jordan Peterson to like discuss aspects of history. There's at least one thing, if not more, that I disagree with Alex on, and there's some things I disagree with Jordan Peterson on. So I hope you're ready for a whole bunch of disagreement, but we're going to head on into this.
Has noted that this has happened many, many times, that God has vanished, disappeared. And one of his explanations for that is that a God that's too ineffable, so that's completely outside of the categories of time and space, let's say, and who doesn't make himself present as a being who doesn't have a heavenly council, who has no hierarchy between the pinnacle and earth itself, tends to float off into space. It becomes so abstract that you can't have a relationship with him, and then he disappears.
In many ways.
So before we get to Alex's thing, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about here. Like, I get that he's talking about kind of divine hiddenness, but he's also talking about how God, I guess maybe the concept of God recedes so far into the abstract that people can't connect with it. And I guess I understand that a little bit. Like, you have to have this personal aspect of God in order for it to mean something to you, maybe? Or like you can't actually interact with this God concept or something. I mean, I really don't know. He's speaking in such abstract terms, and he's like, there's no hierarchy from the pinnacle, which I'm guessing is just the highest point of heaven, to the earth. I still don't know what that means. Like, I don't understand what he's even fucking talking about here, other than God is a concept, which means that if God is just a concept, I feel like that means that he doesn't necessarily exist in reality. Like, we can have a concept of a black hole, right? Like, we had a concept of a black hole before we discovered black holes. So we can have a concept that we don't know actually exists, but we have indications that it exists. But I feel like with God, we don't even have indication that he exists. Like, we just have this concept of what God is, and we have multiple different concepts of what God is. And there's no indication that any of those concepts actually exist in reality. Of course, Peterson is the kind of fuck that thinks that concepts in your mind are more real than real things in reality. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. And thank you, honey, for getting my Blue Moon. I misspoke earlier. Drinking Blue Moon first. It's a Blue Moon Light. It's pretty good. Like, for sort of not franchise, but like widespread craft sort of beer. This is pretty good. As opposed to like Bud Light. Commercial is what I was going for. Commercial beer.
This is what Christianity provides with the New Testament and the figure of Jesus. And that's why I think for a lot of Christians, the more important question for you and the question that they're interested in, and you're quite right that a lot of people are like, I want to get you on my team.
Yeah.
I have no dog in this fight. I'm not a Christian.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of Christians are frustrated when they begin asking about Jesus, who's a much more physical entity. Right? It's a real human being. It's someone of flesh and blood. It's someone who's physically crucified by the Romans.
It's a very different question. It's very different question.
And then is seen as a physical entity, at least according to the canonical tradition, by his disciples after he died.
Yeah.
So basically, Alex describing that Jesus and all the magical things of the Gospels for Christians have to be physical reality, not just concepts, metaphorical truths or metaphysical truths or anything like that. Like, for Christians, these things are reality to them. Like if you could, Alex is gonna describe it here in a little bit, but basically, if you could go back in time and visually see shit happening with your eyes, you would see Jesus walking into Jerusalem and all this other kind of stuff, healing the sick, healing the blind, and all that other kind of stuff, being crucified, dying, and resurrecting. Like, that's what Christians think. Peterson does not subscribe to that, maybe? Let's find out.
When somebody asks you, do you believe that happened? And when I've seen you ask about that question, you tend to still speak in terms of the psychological and the mythological. I think the frustration is that, as you've just said, these are
I
two
don't
different
mind frustrating
conversations, right?
Christians in that regard either, because the truth of the matter is, with regard to the gospel accounts, that the mythological and the historical are inextricably cross-contaminated.
Sure.
So the mythological and the historical are linked. And is that what he's saying? Like, when he says it's inextricably contaminated, so like we can't discern between historical and mythological. And I would agree. Casey just clarified that he's saying that they're so intertwined that you can't distinguish between the two. And I would agree. Or you can't separate them. I guess I don't know. I don't understand that now. Like the idea that you can't separate mythology from history. Because for me, it's pretty clearly defined. History is shit that actually happened. Mythology is shit that didn't happen, but people said happened, or that fabricated as happening, or whatever. But you would still be able to distinguish between history and mythology, and you could separate them that way. So, I mean, I don't know what it means to be inextricably linked, as if, mythology informs history, because that's not how history works. If that's how Peterson, in part of his logic here, thinks history works, he's just fucking wrong. Because mythology doesn't inform history. History can be manipulated by people to produce mythology. It's not like a two-way street, right? Mythology doesn't create history. History happens, and then mythology is created later using that history or because of that history. That's just how shit works.
There's no pulling out the historical Jesus, right? That's a non-starter.
It's a non-starter to be able to separate Jesus, the historical Jesus, from the mythological Jesus. So to me, maybe you can correct me there, hun. To me, what he's saying is that they're so intertwined with each other that you can't discern between the two. Neither can be a whole story without. See, I still don't like. I still feel like he's saying, because he said that you can't separate the mythological Jesus from the historical Jesus. It's a non-starter. So to me, that means that you can't actually discern what is historical about Jesus.
I think you can certainly discern would be, but you can't clearly this is and this is
Right. That's not what he's saying, though. He's saying that they're inextricably linked and it's a non-starter to try to separate them. I don't know what that means, other than you can't discern, like you can't separate mythology from history. And I mean, I feel like that means that we can't know what is actually historical about Jesus. Yeah. Okay. So that's a fair characterization of what he's saying. I would still agree that we can't discern or we can't know what is historical about Jesus. And that the mythology is definitely clouding a lot of what we think we know about the historical Jesus. So I'm glad so far we're still on the same page here.
And why that is, I don't know. It's very mysterious. It's very hard to understand, as are the, let's say, the accounts of the resurrection. Okay, so what do I think about that? Well, I think that denying the historical reality of Christ I think that's just a fool's errand.
Of course.
I don't know why anybody would bother with it.
So a man exists called Jesus. We have
Yes.
that much.
Now, Christ.
So obviously for a discussion on the resurrection of Jesus, I don't mind starting at a dude existed. I think this is a perfectly fine position to start from for this conversation, because in this particular part of the conversation, Alex isn't trying to question, what can we know about the historical Jesus necessarily. He's just wanting to know about the resurrection. Like, does Peterson think that Jesus literally walked out of the tomb resurrected? That's his goal in this particular section. So it's not like questioning what we do know about the historical Jesus. So he's starting off from a position of a historical Jesus actually existing. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's a great place to start out with if your goal is to actually figure out whether or not Peterson thinks that Jesus resurrected from the dead. Perfectly fine. But I will say that there's not a lot of great evidence to actually support that. That is an ad hoc assertion that Jesus existed. Now, you could bring up a number of different arguments to say, oh, well, it's not an ad hoc thing because of, argument from popularity, or because of all these other shitty arguments like Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, and all this other stuff that I could totally sit here and go on a 2-hour rant about how they don't actually prove that Jesus existed in history. But for the purposes of this section, perfectly fine starting off from this position.
Now, there's a claim that is attributed to Christ that he is the embodiment or the incarnation, the fulfillment, let's say, of the prophet and the laws.
Yes.
I think that's true.
Uh-huh.
Okay. True in what sense? Normally you don't have to actually ask this of anybody. But for Jordan Peterson, he has very Bill Clinton, like, depends on what you mean by is kind of thing. What does he mean by true? For me, in this particular situation, true is that it comports with history. Like, what we know about history to have actually happened in reality, that is what is true. So that's where I'm coming from as far as it being true. When you say it's true, it comports with history, or that this literally happened in history and no other understanding of truth can really apply.
Yeah. What does that mean? Well, I think it's in the Gospel of John. I think Gospel of John closes with a statement that's something like, if all the books that were ever written were written about the gospel accounts, that wouldn't be enough books to explain what had happened.
Yeah, if
yes.
all the things that Jesus did.
Yeah. And it's
okay. Write those books. Like, do you know how big the fucking Encyclopedia Britannica is? Like, do you understand how many books we have to describe all of the events that have happened in history that we know to have happened? Like, I don't understand why this would be a compelling argument as to, well, why doesn't shit exist? Well, if they would have written down everything, it would just been like a ton of books. Okay, good. More documentation is fucking better.
There's a truth in that. The truth is that profound religious account is bottomless. Mm-hmm. And the biblical representations are like that. There's no limit to the amount of investigation they can bear, not least because the text itself is deeply cross-referenced. So there's an innumerable number of paths through it. It's like a chessboard.
First of all, we all know that Jordan Peterson doesn't know how to play chess. He just knows how to bitch about a very basic king's pawn opening. That's all we know. But more to the point, I feel like what Peterson is saying here is that, I was so distracted by coming up with the king's pawn thing. I got to go back. Hold on.
No limit to the amount of investigation they can bear, not least because the text itself is deeply cross-referenced. So there's an innumerable number of paths through it. It's like a chessboard.
I don't know what he means by there's like an innumerable amount of paths through the Bible. I feel like the major claim of Christianity is that God is the transcendent being that establishes truth, that speaks truth, and reveals truth to people, and that the Bible is a reflection of God's truth. So if that were the case, then there should literally only be one path through the Bible, and that's the truthful path. Like, whatever other path exists, those are invalid because God had the Bible written for one particular path, and that's the only path that is valid. So maybe that's something that Peterson's not saying, is that, oh, all these other paths are invalid. It's just this one path, and we don't know what that is. That could be perfectly fine. But the fact that he's like, it's like a chessboard with an innumerable amount of chess moves that you can make because of all the different combinations that you can combine it in. I feel like if God really is real, transcendent, and the Bible is representative of God in the ways that the Bible claims that God is represented, then there should be one path. There's one way to understand it. There's one way to take it. There's not multiple ways. So I feel like this is him, again, obfuscating down to where it can literally mean anything. But maybe he's going to correct here in a second.
And so it's inexhaustible in its interpretive space.
That's true.
And that's a problem too, because it means it's also susceptible to multiple interpretations, including potentially competing interpretations.
I think a lot of people.
So, I mean, I agree with Peterson here that is a problem for Christianity. But if Christianity is true and representative of the God that exists, then there shouldn't be competing hypotheses about this book. That's the one thing that a lot of Christians now paint as a positive when compared to like science. Christianity has one story, one answer, and one set of rules, and they never change. That's the thing. And so saying that, oh, there's multiple different interpretations of all this shit is a very naturalistic look at the Bible, and therefore invalidates the sovereignty of this God. It degrades this God into just being a subjective interpretation made by humans. Humans are the ones that are interpreting how this God should act. So really, it's humans that are hiding behind this reverence for God in order to act their own subjective wills on other people or on themselves. And so effectively, this renders the Bible no longer as any kind of representation of a transcendent God. It's just a representation of shitty fucking men who wanted to control people at various points in history.
People interpret Paul, for example, the earliest New Testament source, as saying that if Jesus did not literally rise from the dead, if there was not a man who stopped breathing and then started breathing again, then your faith is futile and you're still in your sins. That is, Christianity is undermined. Now, that means that, and Paul doesn't say sort of believing that that's false is really bad. He says, if you do not believe this proactively, then your faith is futile.
So this is actually quite good by Alex's on Alex's part here, because he's again holding Peterson's feet to the slowly burning embers here, in the respect of, well, Paul says that you have to literally believe in these things as matters of history, like that you have to literally believe that Jesus died for your sins and all this other stuff. And what Peterson, I feel like, is laying down is this very obfuscated view of the Bible, an obfuscated view of Christian theology, in that it can be interpreted in multiple different ways and has more of a, I guess, metaphysical meaning rather than historical meaning. So Jordan Peterson is advocating for not taking the Bible, its teachings, its theology, and all that as being literally historically true, but at the same time, as you'll see here in a second, he's also going to advocate that they are literally true.
If you don't proactively believe that yourself, then I think when a Christian asks you, do you believe in the resurrection of Jesus? Are you a Christian? I think you must be committed to saying no, at least under that interpretation of Paul. And even if you're not sure, I mean, it's fine if I say to you, do you think that a man physically rose from the dead? And you say something like, well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, but I think it has a lot of mythological significance, or I think that maybe it happened in a different sense, or it happened in the sense that good fiction happens, then fine. But it needs to begin with that caveat of the simple sort of, historically speaking, I don't know. And I know you don't like to pull out the historical Jesus from the mythological.
That's a good objection.
But it's an important question to ask.
No, of course. It's a very good objection. So I just did a seminar on the Gospels with a crew of about 8 people. And it was the same crew that walked through Exodus with me with a couple of variations. And we spent a lot of time on the resurrection accounts, for example. And of course, that was the toughest, let's say, that was the toughest morsel to chew and digest. The thing.
Yeah, is it the toughest morsel to chew and digest because it's all bullshit? It's magical fucking Houdini bullshit. He's like, And he's alive again. Look at that, everybody. Suck his dick and get into heaven. I mean, I feel like that's the problem, is that is how magical it is. And if you're going to sit there and be like, oh yeah, this is historical, then you have to be like, oh yeah, magic exists. Jesus did magic. He's the magical wizard man. And he existed in history and literally did wizardy shit. That's what you have to sit there and argue for. How can you take someone seriously when they do that? When they start arguing that wizardy shit is real, they start looking like that guy that was on that newsreel or whatever, where he was like, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, and he was throwing pieces of paper at a motherfucker at a cosplay event, and he's like, lightning bolt. Or what about that other guy who was like, yeah, we found a headless body, and we tried to do a necromancy spell, but that uses a lot of glitter, and so the police said we disturbed the scene. Like at that, like that's what you look like to me at that point. Like if you're gonna sit there and be like, oh yeah, sure, magic's real. It's like, oh well, fucking lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
About the resurrection accounts is that they're all, look, so I could say something like this, which will just annoy people, but it doesn't matter. I believe the accounts, but I have no idea what they mean.
When you say you believe the accounts, do you mean, and I hate to be sort of...
Yeah.
I mean, Alex is about to go into a great line of questioning here, but I mean, when you say that this shit is real, I don't know what you mean. Like, I feel like this is Jordan Peterson just riding the fence between Christianity and like a naturalistic interpretation of religions. And he's like perfectly riding it to where the post is directly up his asshole, and he's sitting there and he's like balancing on it. He's like, I really don't know what you mean by it being real in history, like it literally happened. I don't know what those words mean. And he's sitting there and he's writing it and he's fucking his own ass with the pole, and like he's like, oh, I don't know what it means, but it feels good. Is that graphic? It might have been graphic.
Pedantic here, it seems pedantic, but do you mean you believe that these are things that happened such that that's a strange
I know you don't
like that. Let me put it this way. If I went back in time with a Panasonic video camera and put that camera in front of the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, would the little LCD screen show a man walk out of that tomb?
So now, I know I'm stopping right before Jordan, I guess, shits himself. I don't know. The look on his face looks like he's about to pop one off in his pants. But now I've heard from some biblical scholars, well, maybe not biblical, but scholars in general who are friends with other biblical scholars and everything like that. It's a major concern for some of them that the biblical scholars have really weird takes when it comes to this kind of question. Like, the idea that you could take a video camera back and you would definitely see Jesus healing blind people and resurrecting out of the tomb exactly as the Gospels portray it. I guess depending on which Gospel you read, but like you would definitely see Jesus resurrecting from the tomb or whatever. So there's that's one reason why I don't trust a lot of biblical scholarship. I really try to do a lot of skeptical like research whenever I'm taking a biblical scholar at their word. I try to make sure I verify, like if it doesn't sound right, I try to find other people that are saying it and all this other kind of stuff. So, I mean, I'm just saying that like this particular question is a major problem for biblical studies because they literally think that they would film Jesus resurrecting from the dead. A lot of the biblical scholars, they believe that a camera would capture Jesus resurrecting from the dead. So this is a major problem. Let's see how Jordan Peterson handles it.
I would suspect yes.
So that to me seems like a belief in the historical event of the resurrection, or at least of Jesus leaving the tomb.
I fucking agree there, Alex. Yep. great. I mean, great. Yes, that's definitely, a historical event happened. That's what you believe. So if Jordan Peterson believes that if you took a video camera back in time and was able to film Jesus' resurrection, that you would actually be able to film Jesus' resurrection, then he definitely believes as a matter of history that Jesus resurrected from the dead magically. That's what he believes. So, I mean, let's see how he pivots. But my guess is that he's going to add a whole bunch of metaphysical fucking caveats to this that ends up abstracting it out to where it could literally mean anything.
Which means that when somebody says, do you believe that Jesus rose from the dead? It doesn't seem clear to me why you're not able to just say, it would seem to me yes.
Because I have no idea what that means.
I have no fucking idea what that means. I don't know what it means for the resurrection to be historical. I mean, yeah, definitely. If I talk to you about something that happened in history as being historically verifiable and that I could capture it on a fucking camera, obviously I don't know what that fucking means. Like, if I could go back in time and fucking film Robin Hood, and I feel like I could literally capture on camera Robin Hood robbing from the rich and giving to the poor, obviously I don't know what the fuck I'm seeing. Like, how can you sit there as a serious person and be like, I don't know what historically reliable or historically verifiable even fucking means? We all know what that means, Jordan.
And neither did the people who saw it.
I mean, I suppose one.
Look. Let's approach this obliquely. Let's say.
Yeah.
Let's approach this obliquely. Why don't we? Yes, let's get oblique, Peterson.
The miracle of the loaves and the fishes.
Yeah.
Okay, so people will say, well, do you believe that happened literally, historically? It's like,
okay, yes, good question. Did the loaves and fishes happen literally? Well, what we know is that Mark actually has two miraculous generation of foods. And we also know that not only Mark, but also the other gospels, they share common phrases and story elements, story structure that is represented in the king's narrative with Elisha and Elijah. So it seems like these stories were modeled off of the Elisha and Elijah narratives to produce Jesus doing these miraculous generation of food stories. So it seems like we can't know whether or not magic was done in the first century. Although the fact that we have to include magic here for this miraculous generation of food seems to lend credence to the idea that it didn't happen, because we have yet to prove that magic actually exists in reality. So it seems to me the more likely solution is that the writers of the New Testament, they got the idea from the Old Testament to have Jesus create a miraculous generation of food story. And so they built a story around that. Subsequent gospel authors took the original two stories, merged them into one, because that's how it was meant to be from the start. And then they fabricated facts around that story in order to make it work. Like, that is just how storytelling happens and how stories are constructed. So that seems to be like the more likely solution for that. But let's see what Jordan Peterson says.
Well, yes, I believe that. It's okay. Okay, what do you mean by that? That you believe that?
Oh my God, this is so fucking pedantic. Like, if I ask somebody, do you believe this? And they go, yes. We don't then have a extended discussion over what it means to believe something. Like, it's very obvious that I'm asking you, do you believe that this happened in literal fucking history? Jesus literally multiplied fishes out of fucking air. Like, he pulled a goddamn Houdini act or some kind of shit, and he multiplied fishes magically. I know Houdini didn't magically do anything. He was an illusionist. I mean, I get that. I'm just saying that I forget what the word is. I'm just saying that, like, it happened magically. Like, it was magic. It just happened because Jesus willed it to happen. You know? I feel like we don't have to have an extended discussion on what it means to fucking believe in history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you tell me, you're there in the way that you described.
Right.
And
What do you
what
see?
What are the fish
What do you
doing
see? Yeah.
exactly? And the answer is you
Yes.
don't know. You have no notion about it at all. You have no theory about it.
Sure.
So your belief is, what's your belief exactly?
Well, I think a Christian might say something like, my belief is that I have no idea, looking at those fish, what I would see in the process of them being converted into enough food for the 5,000 to eat. I have no idea what I would see. But I do know that what I would see is the fish end up being spread amongst the 5,000. In the same way,
Right.
like if I opened up the water jar, what would I see when the water became wine? I have no idea. Does it sort of blend from one color into another? Does it suddenly snap? Does it disappear and then reappear? I don't know.
Right.
So here, I think Alex is thinking a bit too deep into the actual processes of magic here, because like what a Christian would focus on is the fact that, oh, look, there were only 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, but now there's a multitude of them. It magically happened. So the concept in Christianity is that Jesus willed it into existence, that these things materialized out of nowhere. It's not like there's a natural explanation that proves that Jesus actually had a whole bunch of fish over the ridge, and then he had fucking disciples on the other side with this whole like what is it called, like seesaw kind of thing, where one like there was a load of fish on one end, and then like a stair-stacked disciples on the other side that would then jump off and land, flying the fish all the way over into the baskets, so that people, when they reached in, they didn't see the fish get in there because of the whole catapulting of the fish. And then that's how he multiplied it. Like, we're not talking about illusions here like fucking Houdini or anybody else would do. We're talking about Jesus fucking Christ sitting there waving his fucking dick over the goddamn fish, and them magically multiplying right in front of everybody, and everybody having something to eat just because apparently Jesus was able to copy paste shit with his dick. Like, that is literally what we're talking about here, is this magical thing happening. We're not talking about a natural explanation. We're not talking about it. Like, do you think this happened? And the fact that Jordan Peterson does not consider history to be known in this particular way, I feel like is indicative of his ignorance. Like, he's just fucking ignorant about how history is done and what it means for some event to be historical. Why would you ever question this motherfucker on historical matters?
But what I do know as a Christian is that I would see something at some event in which, when I look at the beginning, it's water, and when I look at the end, it's wine. And I mean, actually, I don't mean that Jesus turning water into wine is some kind of, inextricably mythological story, and the question of whether it happened sort of doesn't matter, or maybe it happened in a meta manner, or maybe it happened in a hyper reality sense. I would be, as a Christian, committed to saying that it happened.
I mean, I think that Alex has a pretty good point here, in that, like, we're not talking about some kind of other abstract kind of consideration of it happening. We're talking about it literally, water, wine. And like, we're not talking about like some kind of illusion or anything. We're talking about literal magic here. We're not talking about the process. We're not talking about any of that kind of shit. We're not talking about the metaphorical meaning or the metaphysical meaning or any other kind of fucking meaning that Jordan could bring up here. We're talking about literally water. Jesus dips his dick into it, and fucking wine. Like, that's what we're talking about here.
Historically.
I'm more inclined, rather than to believe, I'm more inclined to understand. And then when I hit the limits of my understanding, I think, I don't understand that.
Okay, now I'm not knocking like getting to a point where it's like, oh, I don't understand this. But we're literally talking about magical shit being done in history, and you being able to know what is actually historical. Like, I get that many people may find it hard to do history and get to a point where you're like, oh, fuck, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't take much for you to realize that magic has not yet been proved. And so if any kind of historical event includes magic, more than likely it's not historical. You don't have to tap dance around this issue. It just is not historical. Jordan Peterson, quit fucking riding that fence, ass fucking yourself with the pole on the fence. Quit doing that, because obviously we're not talking about metaphysical hyper realities and metaphorical shit. We're talking about it literally happening in history. I get you're trying to divert the conversation. Stop doing that.
Now, do I believe it or not believe it? I think often, especially with regards to biblical matters, let's say, I have a suspension of belief and disbelief.
Yeah, and that's fine too.
I think part of the reason that I've been able to be an effective interpreter of the biblical texts and a relatively scientific interpreter is because I approach the texts with respect.
Okay, so basically I feel like what he's saying is that when you encounter these hard historical questions, like whether or not Jesus actually turned water into wine, it's better to just be like, fuck, I don't know. And I guess that's a fine position to have, but I feel like you're still riding that fence. Like you're desperately trying to not offend your interlocutor by saying that you don't believe in that. And so you're choosing a very agnostic position of, well, I don't know. I guess anything's possible. Therefore, Jesus could have totally washed his balls in water and turned it into wine. That's a perfectly, fine thing to happen in history. Whereas more, dare I say, scientifically minded people would be like, well, that would be magic. Therefore, that probably didn't happen. Like Jesus magically turning water into wine, that didn't happen. Now, could Jesus have existed? Sure. Could Jesus have pulled some illusionist trick in order to trick these people into thinking that water turned into wine? Sure. People could have switched out the little containers or whatnot. His balls could have been coated in some kind of like concentrated wine powder or whatever however they do it in the illusionist thing where the water turns to wine in the glass. Jesus just coated his balls in that and turned it all into wine. Okay? Like that's it. They're not saying that. Like that's not the question. The question is, did Jesus will the water into wine with no outside effort on his part other than his will? That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about anything else. And yet Jordan Peterson is again diverting the question.
Same respect that I would approach a lab animal. It's like, I don't know what this is. Like, I seriously don't know.
Can you, I don't know about y'all, but when he said this initially, I was like, can you imagine Jordan Peterson going up to a lab animal, let's say a lab rat. Lab rat's in the cage, and Jordan Peterson's like, what is this? I have no idea what this rat-shaped object is. It's scurrying around like a rat, but I don't know that it's a rat. And if it's a situation where like maybe the rat is a shapeshifter or something, like, yeah, I guess it possibly could be not a rat. But I feel like if you're looking at a lab animal and the lab animal sounds, looks, walks, the coloration and all that is like an animal, I feel like you're not sitting there like, what is this? How are you confused by a lab animal? Like, how can you actually make an argument where you're confused by what a lab animal is?
And I'm not going to come at it with axiomatic assumptions that are unquestionable. I'm going to try to see what's right in front of my eyes. I'm going to try to see what mystery reveals itself if I take this phenomenon seriously.
And that's pretty much the end of this segment. So, he's basically trying to understand the mystery that's revealed by the lab animal. And I feel like, so maybe you could interpret him as being like, well, I don't know what the results of the experiment are. I have to interpret what the experiment shows me. Like, that would be a generous interpretation of what he's talking about. But he didn't say that. He's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And it's like, it's a rat, Jordan. But I don't know that. It could be literally anything. It could be a small child in there. What the fuck are you talking about, Jordan? Nobody knows what you're talking about. Anyways, that's going to be Jordan Peterson for tonight. All in all, I just was not impressed with his argumentation for whether or not the resurrection is historical. It seemed like he thinks that the resurrection is historically true, but at the same time, he doesn't know what that means. Like, he doesn't know what it means to be historically true. He also kind of revealed that he thinks that mythology creates history. At least that's how it would have to work for his whole idea of mythology and history being inextricably intertwined. It would mean that history mythology affects history and history affects mythology, when in reality, the only thing that we see is history affecting mythology, because mythology is built out of what historically happened, and they don't actually care about what literally happened. They just care about what people believe to have happened. It seems like that's where Jordan is coming from. But in all, I found his obfuscation rather word garbagey, and he didn't actually answer the question. I think that Alex, he did the best that he could to try to get him to answer the question, but there's a lot happening in this like 2.5 hour interview. So I do have it linked down below if you want to go and check it out, although it is on Jordan Peterson's page, so please keep that in mind. I think we're going to go to the Skeptic Mafia comments now. If you will, please leave a comment down below with what you thought about Jordan Peterson or what you thought about the Trump conviction. Do you think that Trump deserved it? Do you think that he fucked around and found out? Or do you think that it's a miscarriage of justice? Let me know down below in the comments. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we do have the Skeptic Mafia comments to go through, and I am getting to those right now. Pull these up. Boom. Looks like we just we got a few comments, not that many. All right, first up is Trickster, who says, I always hate listening to this pompous ass who thinks just because he uses big words, it makes his argument any more reasonable. It doesn't, or it don't. He only uses these complicated sounding words to talk down to his audience. I agree. He definitely obfuscates his points with overly complicated words when he could say it in a much simpler way that people could understand. But obviously, Peterson's not going to speak like that. I think in the long run, he should put more into finding something that backs up his argument rather than planning on which words he's going to use to make himself feel more important than those around him. It's not a good argument to say, I sound smarter than you, so that means I am right. I guess that is all I got for now. I don't think this guy deserves the time people give him, and I really don't want to give him any more time. Fuck this guy. Well, thank you, Trickster, for spending your time with us tonight. I really appreciate you there. All right, next is Perfectly Ripe Tomato, or the Tomato Zoomy person. Yay, you're back. Hope you had a lovely vacay. Much love. Yes, if you don't know, I spent some time on vacation this month. A good part of the month. And then I had a lot of like streaming stuff that was going on the first week I was back. And so this is the first time I'm back on a Friday night, but, we went to Hawaii. It was great. I lost a $400 pair of glasses, but don't worry, I got them replaced for cheaper. And, now we're back and we're having a good time. It was a really great time out in Hawaii. I can't wait to go back one day. When we can convince Casey's parents to take us. But anyways, well, no, we chartered, right. We took ourselves out there, but we had a deal on the place that we were staying at. So we shared a condo, so we had a pretty good deal on that. But anyways, Perfectly Ripe Tomato continues with, and if I had time, I totally watched this, Sark. Who am I kidding? Ain't nobody got time for Jordan Peterson, or as I like to call him, bigoted Kermit. Speaking of Kermit, it's ASCII time, and it's Kermit, but it's a visibly disturbed Kermit. Because that's all I can think of when Jordan Peterson talks. Anyways, hope y'all got settled back in and all that. And remember, people, lick that like button or I'll platonically lick you. And while you're doing that, go ahead and subscribe and ding the dinger. If you're feeling especially charitable, go ahead and join the Skeptic Mafia. We got perks and stuff. Insert perks GIF here. So perks, you got emojis, the podcast I've already mentioned. You get to pick the video for Friday nights and all that kind of good stuff. So if you would like to support the channel here and support the show, please consider becoming a Skeptic Mafia member. I know those that have been Skeptic Mafia members from the beginning have really enjoyed having the kind of control that I give them and also all the extra bonus perks that they get. So they think it's worth it. At least they're still members so far. Mark Fernkoff 5133 says, first of all, let me formally welcome GE back from the land of hula skirts and spam sushi. I actually had shrimp the entire time. Like every meal, shrimp. It's also where, which Casey got this for me that I'll probably open after the stream tonight maybe. But I've got an affinity for Kona Big Wave now. Because it's a light beer that's rather light on carbs and it doesn't fuck me up too much, but it's really good and it's not Bud Light. So I really like the Kona Lights. I hope you had a wonderful time. We all know you've earned it, though I know you've been back a while. I've seen you on other channels. Did you wear a hula skirt? Inquiring minds want to know. I didn't wear a hula skirt, but I did get laid. Like, the lay, like we went to a, what is it? A luau. We went to a luau and we got laid. So, we got lays and I was able to throw a spear. I mean, it was a spear made out of a broomstick, but it was a spear nonetheless. There was a guy there that worked there that apparently practiced with it and he could he was a fucking sniper from across the beach over there, getting targets. But anyways, okay, Jordan Peterson. I didn't vote for this one. I voted for the Catholic one because I had the sad misfortune of being raised Catholic for so many years, for so many decades ago. Can you believe I turned 40 yesterday? How the fuck did that happen? Hey, I turned 40 this year. I turned 40 this year, so I'm right there with you. I don't know how the fuck it happens. Like one day, I'm just some dipshit kid in high school, and the next day I'm fucking 40? Really? I've got a 14-year-old son, so that's fun. At least I've escaped Catholicism and been a proud atheist for well over 2 decades now, but I'm getting sidetracked. That'll happen. He's wearing the abysmal jacket again. What the fuck is that? Candy and I can't figure it out. I don't know. It's some kind of weird fucking Catholic jacket, I think, because it's got a whole bunch of what looks like Catholic drawings on it from 1412. I really don't know. Is it the Stations of the Cross or the Sunday Comics or both combined into one? JP seems very reluctant to ever take a hard stance on anything. He's always so vague. Yeah, I think that's actually crafted because he doesn't want to offend the religious people and he doesn't want to offend the agnostics, but he definitely wants to shit on the atheists. So he wants to present himself in a way that is appealing to the metaphysical version of religion and Yahweh, while still maintaining that the literal versions of them are maybe not true. I don't know, but that's the feeling that I get from him. Let's see. The first time I encountered him, YouTube auto-played a video with Sam Harris having a discussion with a couple of people, and I heard that weird Kermit the Frog, after smoking a pack a day for 30 years, voice that Jimmy Snow does sometimes, and realized it was actually quite a good impression. This interview brought to you by Panasonic. There was no tomb. If Jesus existed, doubtful but possible, and was crucified by the Romans, he would have been left on the cross to rot for weeks and then thrown in a ditch grave. That happened to 100% of the people killed by crucifixion by the Romans. The only time they would ever be removed from the cross after crucifixion is if their sentence was commuted. In that extremely rare instance, they were removed while they were still alive. Okay, I need to get back to door dashing now. New episode of Doctor Who is just over 5 hours now. And just like time travel, I will have already watched it by the time we're watching this live tonight. So awesome. Shout out to my girlfriend, the only goddess worth worshiping, the gorgeous goddess Candy Black. And enjoy yourselves, fellow heathens. You know, I'm still getting caught up with Doctor Who. I'm like two Doctor iterations behind the current season. So I'm still working on getting back. I'm in the Capaldi era right now, so I'm working on those episodes. But thank you so much there, Mark. Appreciate you. And I think we're gonna head back over here. It was great hanging out with everybody tonight. It seems like we finished like on time. I appreciate being able to finish on time. Let's see. It looks like Mark sent a super chat. It was a member chat. I missed it a while ago. Oh, wow. Yeah, like early on. It says, yes, anyone who breaks the law is at risk of being convicted. Elon, have you committed felony business fraud, or are you nervous, Elon? Are you? I agree. I think that Elon should be nervous because, like, you know, if you break the law, you can get thrown into jail or get convicted of a felony. Maybe he should be. I don't know. I don't know what kind of shady shit he's done, but maybe he should be. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I'm going to get off of here and we're going to go downstairs and probably get a snack and watch a movie or something. I don't know. I've been really focusing on the Mad Max movies here lately, but I think that maybe we'll just do like a, I don't know, maybe like an X-Men. I'll force her to watch an X-Men movie. Anyways, heathens, I will see you guys later. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice, and all that kind of good shit. I will be live tomorrow with an interview with Michael Beverly talking about the whole J. Warner Wallace thing, mainly specifically focusing on the tactics that J. Warner Wallace uses, like the scan technique that he uses to analyze the Gospels and stuff. We'll be talking about that tomorrow, and then on Monday we've got Skep Talk, so I will see you heathens then. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.